Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome. We are your hosts, Josefa Kapadia and Jasper Rivers.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.
Welcome everybody. Get paid for your pad, another episode. And before I introduce my guest, I wanted to share something with you guys and ask for your advice. Actually, I was thinking it would be really cool to organize an Airbnb retreat, to kind of rent a villa somewhere in a cool country and just spend a weekend or maybe like a free day, a long weekend, brainstorming about Airbnb and investing and all that kind of stuff. And I was just curious if people would be interested in that. So if you are interested in that or you have any ideas, then please send me an email at jasper@getpaidforyourpad.com. I think it's going to be really cool just to have a long weekend, getting to know people, sharing experiences, ideas, and doing all sorts of fun stuff. So that's that. And then I will introduce today's guest, a really interesting person, Durk Johnson. He's the Executive Director of Vacation Rental Housekeeping Professionals, VRHP. Durk, welcome to the show.
Hello, Jasper. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and my specialty is housekeeping, maintenance, and laundry, and I love talking about the back of the house and cleaning up other people's messes.
Awesome. Well, we're going to be talking all about that. We've talked to Francesco a couple episodes back. I know you're a good friend of his, and he had some really good advice to share about housekeeping and cleaning, but I'm sure you're going to have a lot of value to offer as well. So I'm excited to get into it. But before we do that, can you tell us a little bit about what is the Vacation Rental Housekeeping Professionals?
Yes, the Vacational Housekeeping Professionals is an association that specializes in education and assisting those that clean short-term or vacation rentals with best practices, education, certifications, all sorts of things of that nature. It's a dirty job, and it's one of the most important jobs that we have to make sure a property is ready when a guest arrives and have it cleaned to standards and to clean it in the correct methodology. And so that is what we do. We help companies excel and succeed at making the properties ready and helping them succeed at that.
Do you have a background in housekeeping and cleaning services?
I do. I've done it for 20 years. My first day on the job as a housekeeper was October 1st of 2001 for a company called Deer Valley Lodging in Park City, Utah. And after one day on the job there, I would have changed all of the housekeeping departments that I had managed before. And it was an exciting time, and I learned a lot from my boss and from what we did there. And I've continued on to expand and fine-tune my craft. Growing up, I never thought that I would be a housekeeper or be involved in this type of work. Growing up, you always want to be a fireman or a policeman or something of that nature. Somehow a housekeeper never makes it to the list of dream jobs to have. But here I am nonetheless, living my dream and having a great time at it.
That's great. That's great. And just out of curiosity, like what made you choose this particular field?
Yes, it was total by happen chance. My wife and I, we lived in, we live in the United States. And so we were living in the southern part of Utah in St. George, and it's a desert, sits at 3,000 feet. And we were tired of, to hear me say this now is just crazy. We were tired of warm weather all the time, and we wanted 4 seasons instead of just 2. And so we wanted to move to northern Utah again. And I started to apply for jobs in Park City and got connected with somebody there and introduced me to a couple of people, and that is how I became involved in housekeeping. They picked me up and they liked my experience and my skill set, and off I went.
Awesome. And have you been an Airbnb host as well?
I am not an Airbnb host. I have studied Airbnb and looked at it, and I've helped other hosts and contractors that clean for Airbnb. So I am not. I do not fall into that host category. It is intriguing to me, but I have not done that part yet.
Awesome. So let's get into the advice for Airbnb hosts out there. What are the most important things when it comes to like a cleaning or turnover?
So I believe that there is a specific methodology to cleaning. And so if I'm cleaning the property myself, then I would make sure that I would follow a process called follow the wall. And then the follow the wall allows me to systematically go through a property to make sure that I see and touch everything to make sure it's to standard. And then on top of that, I would do a process called the cleaning process, where there's 4 steps to that. And that is where I prepare the property, make the beds, clean the property, and then place the towels and amenities. And so by using those 5 pieces, I'm able to have a consistent methodology to go through every property, no matter the size. And that way I can work towards the 2 greatest characteristics of a housekeeper, which is speed and quality. And to have speed and quality, I have to have a consistent methodology that I clean every property with.
Love it. Follow the walls. Never heard of that before.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting methodology. I mean, there's a specific pattern to go through the property. So if I were entering, so imagine in your mind's eye, if you will, for just a moment, I walk in the front door of your property or a property, and I would. So you walk in the door and you're going to look and see where the kitchen is. And if the kitchen is to your left, because you always want to end in the kitchen or be as close to the end of the kitchen as you can, you're going to look for the kitchen. And if it's to your left, then you would continue to the right. And you would essentially, when I first started this, I put my hand on the wall and I would go along the wall. I would go along the doors, the front side, the back side. You go top to bottom on the wall. Start in the upper corner of the ceiling and then come all the way down to the baseboard. And then you also, are judicious about when you get on the floor to look underneath the beds and the dressers and so forth, because as I've gotten older, the less frequency I have to get on the floor, the better. When you're a young man or a young person, it just doesn't matter, right? You can get up and down all day long, but and then the last thing is you need to create imaginary walls to go around, coffee tables, ottomans, or dining room tables, or islands in the kitchen, so you can make sure you get to everything in the property. Because if you just followed the outside walls, you would miss all the stuff in the center. And that particular process truly was a professional game changer for me as I did that, because it allows me to have a consistent method and a consistent process in every property I go to. And if I'm inspecting or cleaning and I get called away to go and do something else, I can drop a rag in a specific location, and then I can come back to that specific rag or location and pick right up where I left off. I don't have to remember where I was or what I've done, because it's the same pattern over and over again.
And did you say you always want to end with the kitchen?
You always want to be in the kitchen. That is correct. Either end in the kitchen or have the kitchen as close to the end as possible, because some properties that just doesn't quite work that way.
And why is that?
Because that's where the bulk of the work is. That's where the most work is. You've got all the cabinets, you have all the pots, the pans, the dishes, all those things like that. And the kitchen has just a lot of work. And so by the time you get to the kitchen, you may be tired or a little exasperated. And so when you get to the kitchen, you realize, hey, I'm almost done. And that gives you that little extra energy to continue on and succeed.
And I've noticed, I'm just looking at your website, the Vacation Rental Housekeeping Professionals, VRHP Adult Arc. And I see you can also sign up as a member. Who are the members of this organization? Are those all Airbnb hosts, or are there other people a member as well?
So yeah, we have different classifications of members. We have those that are vendors, so those that sell sheets, towels, cleaning products, software to help the back of the house succeed. We have vacation rental property managers that are members. We have cleaning contractors that are members, and then Airbnb hosts could also be a member as well. I'm not sure if I have any. I would have to go back through my list and look. But yeah, it's open to anyone who wants to be a member, who wants to have access to our library and wants to understand how best to succeed at the back of the house. It's curious because as a host, and we're contracting housekeepers out or contracting the cleaning out, there are certain things we have to do to make sure that that we are successful and that we are able to, abide by the laws of the land. And that would be, you have to have agreements and contracts, and we have information to help people stay safe and keep and operate their business well.
So you're saying you can help people create like contracts for their cleaners and the housekeepers?
I have samples that they can use. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's interesting. I've actually
now obviously the contracts would have to be vetted by the attorney in their specific state or country to make sure it abides by those laws. But I do have samples that they can use to do that.
Right. Yeah, that's a question that I've gotten actually a couple of times where people have asked me if I have an example of a contract that they can sign with their managers or cleaners or housekeepers. You also organize events. What are those events about?
Yeah, so we have two events that we work with mostly at the moment, and that is we do a one-day housekeeper seminar, and that is where contractors, Airbnb hosts, anybody are welcome to attend. We talk about the importance of housekeeping. We talk about creating a maintenance work order. We talk about guest service and how to stand and how to work with guests. We talk about some safety pieces, bloodborne pathogens, safety data sheets, items of that nature. We talk about what should be in a cleaning kit. We talk about what should be in an inspection kit. We do a couple of activities that talk about the importance of a standard property appearance. We go through the follow the wall, the cleaning process. I have something called the housekeeping building blocks that every successful housekeeping department needs to follow to be able to succeed. And then at the end of the day, we do some product demonstrations. We go through, one of my favorite demonstrations is a biohazard kit that's used to clean up vomit and blood and things of that nature. And it has this powder in it that takes liquid and turns it into a gel. And when my kids were young and they would throw up, I wished I'd had this, because obviously I would clean it up and it's just this gelatinous mass that oozes all over the place. And then after I cleaned theirs up, I would go throw it myself. So this little product that turns it into a gel makes it real easy to clean up and takes away the smell, and it's great stuff.
Well, that's a lot. It sounds like you really have a very systematic approach. I heard you mention a cleaning kit. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so my cleaning kit is a 5-gallon bucket with a bucket liner on it, and the bucket liner has all sorts of pockets on the outside and the inside. So, you look at a contractor per se, and you see them walk in the door with a bucket, and it's got this nylon thing around the lip of it, and they've got all their tools stacked in it. Mine is very similar to that, just a $5 5-gallon bucket, or if you've got a restaurant supply store that gives them away for free or whatever, I'd snag those, and then the nylon liner on top of that, and then inside of it I'm going to have a magic eraser. I'll have my razor blades to scrape paint off windows or to work on the flat surface of the stove. I'll have microfiber rags. I'll have my cleaning products. I'll have my Swiffers, because I need those in specific locations. I'll have a little chiseler, which is a scraper, a little brush. I have all of those things that I need that in one little kit. So I'm a proponent that a housekeeper needs to look good when they walk in the door, and they need to look clean and organized. And so if I have, as a housekeeper, if I have this bucket in one hand, it's got everything I need. I can walk in the door, I can look professional, and I can be prepared, and I can take it with me from room to room or around the house, and stage it in a way that I can be quick and efficient.
What are some of your favorite cleaning products?
So my favorite cleaning product, I have 4. The first one would be a microfiber rag, because the microfiber is able to hold on to the dust and hold a lot more dirt than a cotton rag would. The second item would be an item called a doodle bug, and that is a plastic head that has the B part of the Velcro, the little plastic hooks, and I can put my microfiber rag on the doodle bug, and I can use it to mop the floor. I can use it to clean walls. I can even, with the correct extender pole, I can get some of the high cobwebs or things like that with my doodle bug. And then the other 2 items that I love to clean with, one is called an enzyme product. My favorite one right now is a product by the name of Chemzyme. And it eats all sorts of proteins. So blood, urine, beer, wine, fish stink in the fridge. When your garbages stink outside, from all sorts of grease and fish and guts and everything else, you can spray this in the trash can. It takes away the smell. That would be the third item. The fourth item would be a product called Sporgo, and that takes care of mold and mildew. There's a belief out there that bleach kills mold and mildew. Bleach kills bacteria. Mold and mildew is a spore, going back to our high school chemistry. And so it takes something different to kill mold and mildew. Now, if a guest calls up and complains and says, hey, there's mold in my shower, the first thing I'm going to show up with is bleach, because it takes away the color. So the guest thinks that I have taken care of it and killed it. In reality, after the guest departs, I'll come back with something that actually kills mold and mildew. And this particular product has Australian tea tree oil and hydrogen peroxide in it. And that's what the hydrogen peroxide pulls the roots up, and the Australian tea tree oil is what kills the mold and mildew. So for those that go to the spa, they're very familiar with Australian tea tree oil. It has many, many uses.
So can you tell us a little bit more about safety when you're cleaning a house?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that everyone should be doing. Now, obviously, if you're using a contractor as a cleaner, then this would fall on them. But if you're cleaning yourself or you have the cleaners as employees, then obviously the housekeepers need to have closed-toed shoes, no flip-flops, can't clean in bare feet. They need closed-toed shoes to clean in. And then, of course, the first question is, well, how do I know if the floor is clean if I don't walk on it my bare feet? The answer is you can learn how to do it in shoes. I've learned, and you want closed-toed shoes so you don't stub your toe, or so if you're in the kitchen and you're washing something and it's all soapy and you get distracted and it slips out of your hands and falls on your feet. If you have shoes on, the shoe will protect it. If it's just open toes, then obviously you have different issues to take care of. From another point, from a safety issue, is you never want to clean with bleach and ammonia, because the two together make chlorine gas, and chlorine gas is a deadly gas. So I'm not a fan of cleaning with either of those products. And then also from a safety standpoint, you need to have safety data sheets for every product that is used. And you also want to make sure that the bottles of the cleaning products that you're using have the proper labels. No Sharpies. If you have a Sharpie, if you have a bottle written on with a Sharpie that says, Comet or Spick and Span or Mr. Clean or Pine Sol or whatever you're cleaning with, that's inappropriate. And if in the United States, if that's where you're cleaning and residing, if OSHA were to come in and do an inspection, it's $5,000 per bottle that they would find if it was written with Sharpie. And then, you want to make sure that you're providing the correct gloves, the safety glasses, all those things of that nature. And then also from a safety standpoint, I would encourage you to look at your oven cleaner and your safety data sheet in section 8, because it's going to dictate and recommend to you what you should be using to protect the individual who's using it. And most of them say goggles or face shield, which means it covers the whole face. And they say chemical resistant impervious gloves, and that is not the normal gloves that a housekeeper would use. That's a whole different type of glove, and they're way more expensive than the disposable gloves you'd be using. So I would take a look at your oven cleaner to make sure that that is not. And if it is, if it does say face shield and chemical resistant impervious gloves, I would change it. It's not worth the hassle to have that. So those are just some of the things that you would need to be aware of. You do need you need a hazardous communication document, and you can get that off of the OSHA.gov website, or obviously we have a template of that from in the association that can be sent out. And then you also need to have a bloodborne pathogen policy written out, and you have to have training for housekeepers, and then you have to have training for those that clean it up, and those that clean it up have to have a hepatitis B immunization at the expense of the company, because hepatitis B also has another name called the housekeeper's disease, and that's because way back when, before we knew to wash our hands or use plastic gloves, we would housekeeper would go in, clean up the mess, go home and fix dinner, and then the whole family would get sick. And so there are specific things in regards to biohazards that we have to facilitate and follow. The other thing to consider too is when you're picking up sharps, in other words, needles, that they have to be disposed of properly. And then based on again, this is specific to the United States, based on the county that you reside in is how you have to dispose of that. So whether it's thrown away or incinerated, you have to know what your county regulations are to make sure you dispose of those items appropriately. Those are just some of the safety things that I would recommend people need to look at.
You mentioned something that didn't sound familiar to me. I can't remember exactly what you said. Something like Sharpie, something that's like not allowed in the US. You get a $5,000 fine. What is that exactly?
Oh, so sorry. Yes. So a Sharpie is just a black magic marker, black permanent pen, if you will. And some people will go and buy a blank cleaning bottle, spray bottle, and they will write the name of the product on the bottle without the proper label. So the proper label, according to the global harmonization system, has the name of the product, manufacturing, all sorts of things that it tells us whether it's corrosive. And some people will go or even mix their own product to clean with, and then they'll write the name of that product with a black pen on the bottle. And so that is not allowed in any country. It has to have the proper label.
Interesting. I've never really thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense, though.
Yeah, because if think about it, if a housekeeper inadvertently gets chemical in their eye, or inadvertently does something, where they get sick or something like that, then you can grab the bottle because it has the appropriate label on it and take it with them to see the doctor or to receive medical care. If the bottle just has the name of the product with a black pen written on it, then they have no idea what it is or what the contents are, because they're lacking that information that the label would contain.
Right. Kind of reminds me of when I went on a hike in Brazil one time, and there was little snakes there, and then somebody advised me, like, if you get bitten by a snake, make sure that you know which one it is, because when you go to the hospital, they need to know that.
Yes, absolutely.
Which made my hike really enjoyable.
Right, you're always looking at the ground instead of looking up at everything else. I totally understand that.
And of course, I didn't see any snakes.
Of course not, because they all knew you were coming, and they knew they had this piece of information, so they somehow just sensed that. Yeah.
So for the people that are listening, and maybe people want to learn more about cleaning, because it sounds like you've definitely are a fountain of knowledge. You've mentioned several things that never even crossed my mind. How can they get involved? Where can they find more information?
Yeah, so the association has a website. It's the name of the association is Vacation Rental Housekeeping Professionals, and the website is VRHP. So V is in vacation, R is in rental, H is in housekeeping, P is in professionals.org. They can certainly reach out to me via email, and my email is director@vrhp.org. Happy to assist and help people with that. Housekeeping is such a fundamental piece to everything we do. And many people think, it's just housekeeping, I'll just get it done. Housekeeping is your brand. Housekeeping is what people are expecting when they arrive. People can have a terrible experience, with making the reservation and, terrible flights and all these other things that go into the whole travel set of getting to a location. And when they walk in the door and the property is warm and cozy and it's clean and it's everything that they expected, they're happy. Everything goes away. However, the flip side is untrue. If they had a great reservation experience, they had a great host experience in obtaining the keys, if that's what you do, flights are on time, everything was great, but they walk in the door and the property is dirty, then everything is ruined. And so our ability to provide a clean and safe place to be, housekeeping is the front line opportunity to do that. And so that's why our standards are important. That's why the cleaning processes are important. That's why the products we use to clean with are important, because the housekeepers own the brand, and they're the ones who make the property ready for the guests so that they can then say, hey, I had a great stay, you should stay here, and cultivate that word of mouth. It's all in the housekeepers. And it's just critical for them to have the right tools and the right information so they can succeed.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I think it's hard to overestimate the importance of having a clean space. And the one thing that I always remember, I can't remember who it was that said this on one of the podcasts, one of the 250 that are out there. Somebody once said that you can have a super clean apartment and everything is perfect, but then when the guest at night steps into the bed and there's like one hair in the bed that reminds the guest of the fact that there might have been other people sleeping in that bed the night before, and whatever they were doing in that bed, that could ruin the experience. Like one little hair can literally ruin the experience.
Totally. It opens the door. Now they start looking for other things that's wrong. Totally so. And and you're so right, because the housekeepers are the ones that own the brand, and making sure that they have everything ready to the standard of the host is what makes everything work. And it's all just this big circle. When the housekeepers succeed, then the hosts succeed, and then the guests succeed, and it just continues to build on itself. But the reverse is true. If people stub their toe or make mistakes, then that's a downward spiral instead of an upward spiral. I totally agree.
Great. Well, Durk, thank you so much for sharing all this really valuable information. I definitely learned a bunch. And for those who out there who want to learn more about cleaning, vacation rental, housekeeping professionals, VRHP.org. And there's lots of information. You can become a member. You can register for housekeeping seminars as well. And so lots of stuff to do there. Durk, thank you so much. And for the listeners out there, thanks for listening. And of course, next week there'll be a new episode.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.